Video, we're going to be discussing the first season of That 90s Show. Hello everyone, my name is Josiah. Thank you for coming to my channel today. This is Tyler and that's Teddy over there in the corner. We are going to be discussing season 1 of That 90s Show. That 90s Show is the second spin-off of That 70s Show, but it's the only one that's considered canon, technically. And it's about Leah Foreman, who is the daughter of Eric Foreman and Donna Pinciotti from That 70s Show, as she travels to Point Place, Wisconsin, to stay with her grandparents, Red and Kitty, over the summer. I have not heard a whole lot of people talking about this since it came out, but since we watched it together, we thought it would be fun to give you guys our thoughts on the show. So starting off, what I did like about the show, it was nice to be back in Point Place in the original sets, kind of giving you that nostalgia feeling from That 70s Show. I did like some of the progression of the characters, seeing Eric and Donna both as parents, as well as seeing Red and Kitty in this grandparent phase of their life. We get a couple other cool cameos here and there, and I think the show overall has potential. I don't think it's going to be as good as That 90s Show, not that it needs to be, but I think depending where the season went, I do think it has a lot of room to grow and really become great on its own. What about you? Anything? What did you like about it?
You told me I just had to come and agree with you. Jeez.
What? Oh my gosh. What did you think of season 1? Was there anything that you particularly liked about it?
Not really. It was just a good first season. I think it really introduced a lot of new characters.
Okay.
Not to mention bringing back that original set without it being this constant callback to the original show.
Okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned what was it, Fuller House? Like I was never a fan. I did watch Full House, but not like as much as she has. And then you did mention that Fuller House was a lot of like the same storylines, the same jokes with like everyone.
Yeah. Essentially that show. So Fuller House, it felt like the actors came back from Full House and just joked around the whole time. So a lot of times it felt like the same characters who hadn't grown over 30 years. So it was a little uncomfortable hearing like someone who, I think the show ended when like the middle daughter was like 14. So having her still saying the same thing she said when the show started at the age of like 8/9. So it was like really uncomfortable seeing like how immature it almost made the adults. But then on the other hand, we also have the fact that they like literally copied the same exact story. So for example, in Full House, the whole joke was a dad can't raise daughters on his own. So, like back in the 80s, you had moms who did all the work. So the whole joke was that's why it was supposed to be like a comedic show, because here we have this newly widowed man and he can't take care of 3 daughters, so he has to call in 2 friends to help him. So flash forward 30 years, his oldest daughter, who was about 10 years old at that time, she ends up becoming widowed herself and calls in her sister and her best friend, and it was pretty much like the same exact story all over again. And especially like with the dads of the first show, it literally just felt like the actors coming in. They didn't pick up any of their like original role. It was a lot of like I said, them just goofing off like old friends. Very relaxed, very not professional, like not in role at all. Whereas the girls became them. So.
And yeah, I think going off of that, that's another good thing about That 90s Show is that the new kids, the new cast of characters, it's not like they're just playing the exact same roles as the kids in That 70s Show were. Like, yeah, okay, there's this kid that's kind of popular and maybe, sleeps around a lot, but it's not like very obvious who's supposed to be who's supposed to be the rich preppy girl who's kind of dumb or any of that. It's like they each were like their own like character. They had their own identity. And I think the standouts, I think the best actor on the show was the kid whoever played Jay Kelso, who's the son of, Ashton Kutcher's character from That 70s Show. I think he definitely had the strongest performance. After that, I would say the girl, the main character, the girl who played Leia, or the actress that played Leia. I think she did a pretty good job. I don't know how many of them have had acting roles before this show, but I think given more time, they'll definitely like form into their roles a little bit more. And I do think that the show should have been a little bit longer. I think it's only like 10 episodes, and it's supposed to be like over the summer. Yes, it starts on the 4th of July, but then it's like in a 10 episode school starting again, and it's just like it feels like everything that happened, it was just a little too fast. It felt too fast for the storyline to almost be believable, and to me it felt like maybe like a week. I couldn't really tell like the time lapse between each episode. So hopefully with season 2, like I do understand with it being a spin-off, they're kind of testing the waters and maybe only wanted to give it like 10 episodes. But I think if they're going to keep the format of having 20-minute episodes, they definitely need to extend it a little bit longer, and then maybe the show will start to find its groove and make its strides. Do you have anything that you wanted to add?
I mean, I think the biggest issue for me was like the lack of clarity of what time frame we're in. I know like when we see like that 70s show, there's very clear like costuming as well as activities that they're going into. It almost feels, and I know a lot of people online have said this, almost like early 2000s, not very 90s vibes. And then the other issue is when you talk about being somewhere in like Wisconsin, why are you wearing the same things as kids in, California and that kind of thing. So I think that was like the only thing that really threw me off.
Yeah, she's much more of a history buff than I am. That's like I mentioned in the last video. She was really into like Greece and things like that, so she knows a lot about what they were wearing in each time and what the culture was like at the time. Whereas like me, I'm not really interested in any of that. So I appreciate your contribution in that aspect. So yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't really know a whole lot about that. I was born in the 90s, so being a kid in the 90s as opposed to being a teenager or an adult, I can't really, tell one way or the other. But overall, like I said, I thought it was a really good show, and I'm so glad that it got renewed for a second season, and I'm just really excited to see where it goes. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.